My brothers and sisters, what we are witnessing today in our neighbor Uganda is nothing short of a complete manipulation of democracy. My brothers and sisters, I stand before you not just as a leader, but as an African who has seen this story repeat itself too many times across our beloved continent. Let me tell you what is happening right now in Uganda. The voting has finished. Yes, the people have cast their ballots, but what is unfolding before our eyes is a carefully orchestrated theft of the people's will. As I speak to you now, the votes are being counted. But my brothers and sisters, the counting that is happening is not the counting that reflects the truth of what the Ugandan people have chosen. President Museveni, who has been in power since 1986, who has ruled Uganda for 40 years now, is claiming that he expects to win 88% of the vote. Can you imagine this? 88%. He is saying that if he does not get this percentage, then he will know that the votes have been stolen from him. This is a man who has been in power for 4 decades, telling the people that anything less than 88% means theft. But my brothers and sisters, let me ask you, who is really doing the stealing here? On the other side we have Bobi Wine and his team. They are saying that the signs of rigging have been visible since yesterday, since the day before the election even happened. Bobi Wine is telling the people that this election will not be free and fair. And my brothers and sisters, when you look at what is happening on the ground, when you see the conditions under which this election is taking place, you cannot help but agree with him. But here is where the fabrication begins. As the votes are being counted right now, we are starting to see Museveni take the lead. The numbers that are coming out are showing that Museveni is winning, that he is getting the percentage he predicted. But my brothers and sisters, how can we trust these numbers when the entire process has been compromised from the beginning? Let me tell you about the conditions under which this election took place. 2 days before the election, the government of Uganda shut down the internet completely. Yes, you heard me correctly. In the year 2025, a government shut down the entire internet of a country. They are saying this was done to prevent misinformation, to prevent disinformation, to stop electoral fraud, to avoid incitement to violence. But my brothers and sisters, when you shut down the internet during an election, what are you really trying to hide? The people of Uganda have been in darkness for these past days. They cannot communicate with each other. They cannot share what they are seeing at the polling stations. The media cannot do their work properly. Journalists are having to call their reporters on the phone because they cannot get any live video. How can you have a transparent election when you have cut off the main means of communication in the modern world? This internet shutdown has been criticized by human rights groups all over the world. They are calling it an authoritarian tactic, a repressive measure. And they are right, because when you do not want people to see what you are doing, when you do not want the world to witness your actions, you cut off their ability to communicate. This is exactly what the government of Uganda has done. Now let me tell you about what happened during the voting itself. The turnout was actually quite low. Many people did not come out to vote. And this is important to understand. When people lose faith in the electoral process, when they believe that their vote does not matter because the outcome has already been decided, they stay home. This is what we saw in Uganda. The participation was small because the people have seen this story before. They have seen elections where no matter what they do, no matter how they vote, the same person remains in power. But even with this low turnout, even with fewer people voting than expected, Museveni is saying he expects to get 88% of the votes that were cast. He is saying that if the votes are counted properly and not stolen, he will achieve this percentage. My brothers and sisters, does this make sense to you? When turnout is low, when people are staying away from the polls, how does the incumbent suddenly get an even higher percentage than before? Let me tell you what Bobi Wine and his supporters witnessed on the ground. They saw people being given money by those in NRM vehicles. The ruling party was literally buying votes in front of polling stations. They saw their polling agents being chased away from different voting centers. How can you have fair observation of an election when the observers from the opposition are being driven away by force? Bobi Wine himself went to Kisenyi to see what was happening there. What he found was violence and intimidation. People who were known to support the opposition were being beaten in the streets. The ruling party operatives were seated in their cars, distributing money, and then moving around to attack anyone they identified as opposing Museveni. This is not democracy, my brothers and sisters. This is dictatorship wearing the mask of democracy. Bobi Wine has been calling on Ugandans to cast a protest vote against this authoritarian government. He sees Museveni as a dictator who treats Uganda as his personal property and all Ugandans as his slaves. And when you look at the way this election has been conducted, can you say he is wrong? When a leader shuts down the internet, when he allows his supporters to beat opposition voters, when he chases away election observers, when he predicts his own victory percentage before the votes are even counted? Is this not the behavior of someone who believes he owns the country? The campaign itself was violent from beginning to end. Just 1 month ago, Bobi Wine was campaigning in the capital, Kampala. On that same day, he was beaten up. His supporters were attacked with tear gas. This has been the pattern throughout the entire campaign period. Violence, intimidation, repression. And now, as the votes are being counted, we are supposed to believe that in this atmosphere of fear and violence, the people freely chose to give Museveni 88% of their votes. Let me tell you about the irregularities that were reported even before the voting began. The voter register itself was questioned by the opposition. They found double entries, multiple entries, inconsistencies throughout the register. How can you have a fair election when the list of voters itself is compromised? But these concerns were ignored. The election went ahead with a flawed register, and then on the day of voting itself, the rules were changed. People came to polling stations early in the morning, knowing that they would have their fingers scanned or their eyes scanned for biometric verification. This was the procedure that had been announced. But then at 10 a.m., suddenly the rules changed. Now everyone in the register was being allowed to vote, even without the biometric verification. Why this sudden change? My brothers and sisters, when you change the rules in the middle of the process, it is because you are trying to manipulate the outcome. Bobi Wine raised an important question that I want you to think about. He asked, in a situation where there is no internet, where the media is heavily censored, how do you communicate with your supporters across the country? How do you tell people to go and vote manually when there is no way to communicate that message nationwide? Imagine if the opposition wanted to announce something to the nation, to call for a specific action. How would they do it in this kind of blackout? This is a serious problem for democracy. When you cannot communicate with the people, when you cannot coordinate your observers, when you cannot share information about what is happening at different polling stations, how can you protect the integrity of the vote? Now, as the votes are being counted, we are seeing Museveni take the lead. The numbers are coming out showing him winning by large margins. But my brothers and sisters, these are not real numbers. This is fabrication. This is what happens when you control the entire electoral process, when you shut down communication, when you chase away observers, when you change the rules during voting, when you intimidate voters with violence. You can produce whatever numbers you want. Museveni himself has been talking about vote theft, but he has been accusing the opposition of it. This morning he was saying that in the last election in 2021, the opposition stole votes. He claimed they got 2.7 million votes through theft. According to him, this was why they used marked ballot papers. And this is why he says they decided that this election in 2025 would be done electronically. But my brothers and sisters, many people are complaining that this electronic system has not worked properly. They are saying it has failed because of the lack of internet connection. And who cut the internet connection? The government itself, through the Ministry of Communication, cut the internet 2 days before the election. So let me make this clear to you. The government cuts the internet. Then they say the election will be electronic. Then the electronic system does not work properly because there is no internet. And then they produce results showing the president winning with a massive percentage. Do you see how this works? Every step of this process has been designed to ensure one outcome, and that outcome is Museveni remaining in power. Uganda has been in darkness for these past days. There has been no internet connection since 2 days before the election. Yesterday there was no internet. Today there is still no internet. Some clever people have found ways to get around this, using VPNs and other methods. Bobi Wine has still been posting some updates. Some of his people have managed to get information out. So it is not that everyone has been completely silenced, but the vast majority of Ugandans have been cut off from the world and from each other during their own election. My brothers and sisters, this is Museveni's 7th term that he is trying to win. He has been in power for 40 years. 40 years. An entire generation of Ugandans has grown up knowing no other leader, and now he wants another term. He wants to continue until when? Until he dies in office? This is not democracy. This is a monarchy disguised as a republic. Bobi Wine, whose real name is Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, represents something different. He represents hope for change, hope for a new generation of leadership, but that hope is being crushed under the weight of this rigged electoral process. All the signs from the beginning have pointed to Museveni rigging this election. The extreme violence during the campaign, the shutdown of the internet, the changing of voting rules, the intimidation of voters and observers, the compromised voter register, and now these fabricated results showing Museveni taking the lead. The Ministry of Communication in Uganda, under the orders of the government, has kept the country in a communications blackout throughout this election. They have made it impossible for the people to coordinate, to share information, to expose fraud when they see it. And in this darkness, in this silence, the regime is manufacturing the results it wants. My brothers and sisters, I want you to understand what is happening here, because it is not just about Uganda. This is about our entire continent. This is about whether we as Africans will allow our leaders to treat us like this, to steal our votes, to ignore our will, to hold on to power through force and fraud, instead of through the genuine support of the people. The question now is, will Museveni be announced as the winner? Based on what we are seeing, based on these fabricated numbers that are coming out showing him in the lead, yes, he will probably be announced as the winner. But will he have won fairly? Will he have won honestly? My brothers and sisters, the answer is no. 1,000 times no. If Museveni wins this election, it will not be because the people of Uganda chose him. It will be because he stole the election through systematic manipulation of every part of the process. And if Bobi Wine loses, it will not be because the people rejected him. It will be because the election was rigged against him from the start. I want to hear from you. What do you think?
I feel hopeful but anxious at the same time. I mean, this is supposed to be an election, but it's trouble everywhere. As we speak right now, the internet is off in the whole of Uganda. As we speak right now, our polling agents are being picked by security. The whole of Western Uganda and Northern Uganda, they're being picked. Even my deputy president in charge of Western Uganda has been picked up, and I'm told she's been detained in a military barracks. So it is crazy what is happening. It's supposed to be an election, but besides switching off the internet, our agents are being picked by security to ensure that the election happens in the dark.
Why do you think this is happening, to you specifically?
Well, this is happening to me and my team because the regime is scared about us. We are the real opposition, and the regime knows that they are losing. They are losing this election, so they are intending to rig it massively. The election is being rigged as we talk right now. The internet is off and the journalists are not allowed in some places. And like I said, our agents are being arrested to ensure that they rig without any...
All right, welcome back, family from Africa and across the world. It's so annoying to see all that's happening today in Africa. And this reminds me of the video I came across of Jane Elliott, American scriptwriter, who was trying to tell the world that there is no a democratic leader in the world. Not Trump, not Putin, not Xi, not Nigerian Tinubu, no any African leader is a democratic. And there is no democracy. Democracy is just a smokescreen that was brought in Africa by the Westerners who had their own interest and who view this democracy as a tool to achieve their dreams and their agendas in Africa, because they believe that without their influence, without their control, without the colonization or new colonization, they would have not continued controlling African continent, because the people were already believed that they have the freedom. So they introduced this democracy in order to be able to come back to Africa and continue controlling Africa as how they are doing. That's why today in Africa, every time we are having election, we must have crisis. In African countries, the time of election is the time of crisis, is the time of genocides, the time of destruction, but not the time of transition of governments, so that the people can be transferred from one government to another. But it's just a chaotic Africa and a chaotic moment, and that is today what we are able to experience in the country of Uganda. I thank you so much for the statement of Ibrahim Traore, the captain of Burkina Faso, the president of Africa, and the lion who is today roaring and conquering the African continent, and the person that today is carrying the hopes of the Africans and working toward the African agenda, vision, and dignity of Africa. Now, today, many people today we see in Africa celebrating the junta way or military governments. Why are they doing this? And we know clearly that junta has never been a good way of governance or leadership. The military way has never been a good way of governance, because once a military takes over the government, we never know. You never know which interest they have. You never know what intention they have with the people. Because before Traore, we had someone, we had other leaders who came through junta in the country of Burkina Faso, but they never came out with anything good as compared to what Ibrahim Traore has tried to come with in this country. Before Traore, there was a leader by the name Damiba, whom who was overthrown by Traore's regime, so that's why today we are having Ibrahim Traore. So this is just a luck. You may find someone who is good, or you might find someone who is bad. But now, because Traore chose to be a good junta and a military leader who only came to work with the agenda and interest of his country and protecting the lives of the people. That's why today the people are celebrating the military government of Ibrahim Traore than their democratic way. Today, just a few days ago, we have seen what we saw what happened in the country of Uganda, of Tanzania. Many people, thousands of people were unalived. The young generation who are only going on the street to ask for democracy, the young people who are only going out to ask or speak to their voices, telling the government that we need a reform, we need justice, we need freedom in our country. The freedom that Mwalimu Julius Nyerere was fighting for, that is what we need in our country, so that everyone at least can have a freedom to speak, the freedom to express his feelings, and the freedom to even question the government where they go wrong. But what happened in the back? At the back, the people who turned out in large number to gain protests, peaceful demonstration, they were turned into criminals, shot and killed by bullets. And these leaders still call themselves democratic leaders. So the African leaders have given the people of Africa the reasons to believe in the military leaders, the democratic leaders, because of what they are doing. Now, Ugandan president has stayed in power over 40 years, and still he is demanding for another term to extend to the seventh term as the president of this country, while the condition of this country has never been well. All that he's telling the people is that the country is in peace. Security is preserved. So you don't need anything else. That's not enough. That's why the youth are standing up to say that this is not enough. This is not what we need, because unemployment is high. The people are suffering. The government is unable to offer for the basic things. When you go to the hospital, there's no medicines, there's no roads, there's no schools, and you are telling us that we are okay with the regime, even if it is not Bobby Wine. But Ugandans need change, a change that will come from a young person who understands the transformative of today's generation and today's life. I don't disagree with you that Museveni fought for the change of this country. But again, that cannot be the reason of him to stay to the power until his last breath. Because now the people are feeling like are calling this man a dictator. Museveni, I can't just call him a dictator because I'm so sorry with my voice, with my sound. There is an error, but I apologize for this. I'll work on it. So, my people, I'm so angry today to see how things are happening. I'm so angry and I'm so pissed off to see how the African continent is being run by the selfish and greedy leaders who don't want to see the progress of African continent, who don't want to see the development and the future, the bright future of the African people, because at this time, I think each and every African leader would have been thinking on how to build Africa, how to make Africa and put Africa in a very peaceful status so that even the coming generation can come and find the best Africa, but not a chaotic, the crisis Africa, the fighting and the war that is erupting each and every time. Today we have to learn on how to act like a mature democratic people who understands and respect the rules of the law, the democracy, and make democracy work. Because a democracy is real, but the African leaders are the ones who are making this democracy not work. So when you see people celebrating and hyping the names of the military leaders, it is because our leaders try to show us or to prove to us that democracy never existed. That's why all this is all happening today in Africa. Maybe blessed region from this Black History. Keep on subscribing, sharing, so that I can continue moving together. And we are here to experience all that is coming out of the country of Uganda, and we are praying for you, the people of the land of Uganda, that may God bless you, may God gives you peace in that country, so that you can get what you are craving for and have peace at the same time in the country of Uganda, so that you can build together, move together as Africans, and be blessed.